But now it is time for the WrestleMania 4 review.
Now, Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania is over.
Hey, how about getting your foot off my shoulder?
Hey!
The best is seeing him literally being choked out by Andre the Giant.
That's a great uke line right there. How about getting your foot off my shoulder? It was his hand, but his hand is so big that it looks like a foot because he's Andre the Giant. That's a great uke line. It is Rewind Mania every Monday at this time. If you're watching on the stream at Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook, you will see Macho Mackey in full effect with the robe, the glasses, the hat, the whole nine. And this is going to be a regular thing now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Why don't you tell me a little something about the Draft K1K giveaway? Yeah, I'll get you a lot of Slim Jims with that 1K.
You can buy a lot of
Slim Jims.
Probably about 1,000 of them. I think they're a buck. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've eaten a Slim Jim.
I think this makes me miss Elizabeth if Ramie or if Phil is talking to me like this. I don't know if I have the body or the figure to look like this. Actually, I have the figure.
WrestleMania 4, a landmark night in the career and life of Macho Mackey. And not just because he hoisted a championship at night. Let's just say old Miss Elizabeth had a little fun around the town with Macho Mackey as well. Oh, yeah.
WrestleMania 4, March 27th, 1988, from the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Let's start there, actually.
Okay, we can start there.
Because it wasn't actually inside Trump Plaza. And WrestleMania 5 was also inside Trump Plaza.
What do you mean?
It was the Atlantic City Convention Center, and it was next door to Trump Plaza. But Trump Plaza was the main sponsor for WrestleMania 4 and 5, so they made it seem like the event was being held inside Trump Plaza.
Okay, and I'm not, look, this isn't anti-Trump, all right? I've done that before, but this isn't that. There was something very weird.
Tread lightly, Maclov, yeah.
About our former president being trash-talked by Hulk Hogan during WrestleMania 4. Declan, please, if you will.
And as Andre the Giant falls into the ocean, as my next two opponents fall to the ocean floor and I pin them, so will Donald Trump and all the Hulkamaniacs. But as Donald Trump hangs onto the top of the Trump Plaza with his family under his other arm, as they sink to the bottom of the sea, thank God Donald Trump's a Hulkamaniac. He'll know enough to let go of his materialistic possessions, hang on to the wife and kids, dog paddle with his life all the way to safety. Donald, if something happens, you run out of gas, and all those little Hulkamaniacs run out of gas, just hang on to the largest back in the world, and I'll dog paddle us, backstroke all of us to safety.
Dude, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat. There was something super surreal about that right there. I don't care who you are. And again, this isn't pro-Trump. This isn't anti-Trump. That was weird in hindsight.
I mean, also, like, if you put all the pieces together there and just transport all of that to 2020, is Hulk Hogan saying that he can save us from coronavirus?
With his backstroke and doggy paddle.
Hulk, if you're listening, please help us all. Help us all.
If I'm Joe Biden, I buy that piece of footage right there and just make it a campaign ad, to be honest with you, or try to recreate it.
It probably has been.
Amazing.
That was so weird and so surreal. What was your guys' least favorite thing about WrestleMania 4?
Wow.
Because I have one clear-cut, distinct thing that was my least favorite
Fire
thing
away, you go first.
About WrestleMania 4. It was all, and I love Bob Uecker. I love Bob Uecker, the baseball announcer. I love Bob Uecker's comedy. He was one of the best Tonight Show guests in the history of Tonight Show guests. The creepiness of Bob Uecker and Vanna White in this thing was off the charts, dude. Super off the charts.
There were two subplots in WrestleMania 4. One was the 14-man tournament to crown a WWF champion, right? That's the main subplot. The other main subplot was 4 hours of creepy Bob Uecker trying to track down Vanna White.
And Vanna White is really bad at talking.
Well, I think that's why she's probably stayed in her lane for 40 years on Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, she's a vampire.
Just go turn the letters.
Yeah.
She was super bad at talking when she finally got a microphone in front of her. But all the Bob Uecker, Vanna White stuff, like you could you could have left that out and you wouldn't have lost a thing in terms of entertainment value in WrestleMania 4.
Yeah, at one point, Gene Okerlund was interviewing Vanna White in front of the updated tournament bracket.
Do we have that, Declan? Do we have the Vanna White sound? I
No,
thought I
not
texted
the-
you yesterday and asked you to pull Vanna White being bad at talking.
I shockingly did not.
Okay. Sorry.
And,
It's okay.
and literally, like, this is right after Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan had their double disqualification, right? And so Gene Okerlund goes and he's explaining the bracket, and oh my, I'm here with Vanna White, and we just saw a double disqualification, which means neither Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant will be moving on to the next round. So-and-so gets a bye. What do you think about all this, Vanna White? And she goes, I still think the Hulkster's going to win or something. It's like, Vanna, pay attention to the tournament. Ridiculous.
So that was my least
Be
favorite
a professional.
thing. That was my least favorite thing about WrestleMania 4. What about you guys?
I think my least favorite thing was it was sort of a compilation of all of the different steroid and character wrestlers of the WWF. Like I never liked the over-the-top characters, and this was really the entry point to you're mostly in one of two bins. You're either a jacked up 80s steroid guy like Don the Rock Morocco and Dino Bravo and Ultimate Warrior made his debut, right? And Hercules, like clearly not doing it the
Ultimate
natural
Warrior
way. Right.
made his WrestleMania debut in this.
So those are like the steroid guys. But then you had the characters too, like Brutus the Barber Beefcake and the Elvis impersonator Honky Tonk Man, who I once did an 1.5-hour interview with, and it was amazing for a podcast we used to have called Sports Over Beers. He told amazing stories. I'll find the audio at some point. We can play it on the show. $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who I think we'll get to that. He's amazing. Hacksaw, like everyone had to have it couldn't just be like, all right, it's Declan Goff, and he's good on the microphone. It's like, you got to be a barber.
Yeah.
Or a police officer or something like that. It just felt like every match was just
Gimmicky.
a blast in the face of like Demolition. It's a dominatrix tag team.
Yeah,
Where
did they get out of a dominatrix ring right before that?
They did,
their
yeah.
outfit was very creepy. I had that written down in my notes.
The reason that I love this so much is because I told you guys WrestleMania 3 was like when it started to look like what I remembered as the wrestling of my childhood. The guys who they rolled out in this thing, match after match after match after match, they turned out to be like what this was. Last WrestleMania 3, it started to look like the wrestling that I recognized in my childhood. This is when it went full-fledged. Like, Strikeforce was my favorite tag team ever.
Strikeforce, dude.
Favorite tag team ever. Tito Santana and Rick Martel. Demolition. Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Honky Tonk Man. Like, the Ultimate Warrior. Like, one after another, after another, after another. Guys are walking out to the ring where I was like, oh, man, that's my dude.
Yeah. In general, by the way, this is one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time.
It was
so
great.
I had
Ricky Steamboat.
I had a hard time coming up with
Jr.
I had a hard time coming up with least favorite things because in general it's one of my favorite WrestleManias. But to your point about Strikeforce, you had all these tag teams like the Rockers, Strikeforce. There was another one from WrestleMania 3 that I forget. It was like the first match. But the formula for putting out a good guy tag team was so easy in the late 80s. Find a couple of guys who aren't like the biggest guys, and they can move around and they can like do drop kicks and stuff, and have them dress alike, come up with a corny name for them like the Rockers or Strikeforce that sounds like it could be an 80s metal band, and put some peppy rock music behind them when they run to the ring with smiles. Like, that's the formula, and it worked.
I would even say currently the biggest problem, one of the bigger problems of WWE, there's multiple, but their lack of draw up tag teams. They have just not been able to capture that magic of tag teams for
Vince
the last
doesn't
10
want to.
years.
Vince doesn't like tag teams.
And he's clearly just phasing it out, and it's not even relevant anymore. Back in the day, tag team champions were the truth,
and tag team wrestling was amazing. I brought this up last week. Like, there was an art to tag team wrestling back in the day. The fluidness and just teamwork, and like they were intrinsically on the same page and in sync, and like everybody knew what their partner was going to do next. It was like a dance. It was so synchronized and coordinated that, and so smooth that there was an art form to tag team wrestling back in the days. And teams like the Killer Bees, Strikeforce,
the Killer Bees is another
Demolition,
one. Jim Brunzell, friend of the show, by the way.
The Rockers, like these tag teams, it was different than watching a one-on-one wrestling match in so many ways.
Yeah. So I would say the other least favorite thing about WrestleMania 4 the combination of either wildly inappropriate or insensitive comments by Jesse Ventura, or like there's some things I had on my list of you could never do this in 2020 without getting filleted or fired. Jesse Ventura at one point referred to Bobby Heenan looking like a Chinaman, quote unquote.
I did not catch that.
Ugh.
He also said Vanna White tastes great and is less filling, referring to is it the Miller Lite tagline?
Yes, because
That
Bob
was
Uecker was
uncomfortable.
doing Miller Lite commercials at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who we'll get to, for several years in the late 1980s and early 90s, had a servant named Virgil who was African American. It was like mostly just his slave, I guess.
He had,
a
a black guy dressed up as a butler with no sleeves.
Oh,
like, alrighty then.
Following him
God.
around and not speaking a word.
Yeah.
That was his role.
Doesn't quite hold up in 2020.
It was so weird, dude. So uncomfortable watching that. And then Hulk Hogan damn near killed poor Virgil with the worst form suplex I've ever seen outside of the ring on the ramp on the way out of the ring. Like, I think he was really hurt. He didn't make his way back out to the ring the rest of the night. I'm pretty sure he was really hurt. And Hulk Hogan damn near almost killed poor Virgil, who already was playing basically Ted DiBiase's slave. That wasn't enough embarrassment for him. He had to get damn near killed by Hulk Hogan and his terrible wrestling form.
This was in the era where they hadn't quite explored or perfected how to work outside the ring yet. So like they would sort of venture outside the ring a little bit, and you see it more and more in WrestleMania 3 and 4. And between WrestleMania 1 and 4, they finally have padding outside the ring and a little bit more room to operate, and they got the guardrails up. But they didn't really know how to use steel chairs yet, and they don't really know how to like suplex each other onto the mat or the steel whatever, like the steps outside and things like that. They were still feeling their way around before we got to the Mick Foley era in the late 1990s where like, not only are we working outside the ring, but everyone has a barbed wire bat and lights people on fire. So
the first time a steel chair played a major role in a WrestleMania was right here in WrestleMania 4. We talked about all the wrestlers who I have attachments to. I have an attachment to steel chairs and their involvement in wrestling. This was the first time we saw a steel chair make an appearance in the squared circle. That made me happy.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan played a factor in the final match, which, by the way, spoiler alert, Macho Man Randy Savage winning his first championship over the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
You're getting ahead of me here.
Okay.
You're getting a little bit ahead of me here because I know it's the main event and it's the crescendo. It's the climax moment of the whole thing. But that Hogan and Macho Man and the Mega Powers, when they teamed up, and this was sort of the beginning of that, it holds a special place in my heart as far as wrestling goes. And I'm not even going to lie, guys. I will give you full disclosure here, full transparency. I got a little choked up, which is so stupid, but I got a little choked up watching Hogan, the Macho Man, and Miss Elizabeth up on Macho Man's shoulder celebrating him winning the title because this holds such a special place for me in my wrestling heart. And I might go back. Mackey do they put Saturday Night Main Event on the WWE app?
All of it.
It's all there.
I might go and watch the Saturday Night Main Event where the Mega Powers break up between now and next week, because I assume that sets up WrestleMania 5. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, they had an 18-month plan for WrestleMania 4 and 5.
It's such a good show, that Saturday Night Main Event. So Elizabeth gets knocked out by accident at ringside. Hogan picks her up, carries her into the back for medical attention. The Macho Man gets his ass kicked, and he's none too pleased about it. And that's how the Mega Powers break up. And I might just go back and watch that to get me ready for next week's WrestleMania at some point this week.
And WrestleMania 4 was kind of the official spot where the Mega Powers, like they had been doing some stuff and tagging and stuff, but this was the official. All right, Hogan has helped Macho Man by delivering a steel chair shot to even the score to the back of Ted DiBiase, right? And the best part was, and this is like the simplicity of how you can get fans to cheer in 1988, and it just became a lot more complicated 10 years later. But Andre the Giant continued to interfere in the championship match on behalf of Ted DiBiase. So Macho Man whispers something to Miss Elizabeth, points to the back, and the crowd starts to buzz like, oh my God, what did he tell her? Oh, wait, he told her to go get Hogan. And then they start chanting for Hulk Hogan. Like it was genius booking.
I had chills.
Storylines.
I had chills.
Hogan comes walking out to even the score, grabs the steel chair, sets it down, and sits down with his arms crossed. Crowd goes crazy. Like, of course, it was also of the 8 or 9 years of Hulk Hogan from WrestleMania 1 through 9, I want to say. He couldn't just like it couldn't just be a main event without Hulk Hogan, even if somebody else was winning the championship. Like he always had to be part of it, and that's fine.
A lot of people give him a hard time for that. Nor should there be a main event or a top of the card fight that doesn't in some way, shape, or form include Hulk Hogan. I'll harken back to the first segment when we were talking about Michael Jordan. Hulk Hogan at the time was the Michael Jordan of wrestling, and he should have been involved in the championship match at every major event. I have no problem with that or with him insisting upon that. I'm totally fine with that because that's how it should be.
Okay, since we're on this storyline, can I give you my favorite part about WrestleMania 4 here?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So the tournament was amazing. My favorite part about WrestleMania 4 was it's a combination of the backstory leading up to the tournament and the greatness of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who I believe is the single most underrated bad guy in the history of WWE or WWF.
Agreed.
All right, here's the backstory. So Ted DiBiase comes in. He's the hottest bad guy in the business at that point, playing an evil millionaire character. And if you're not familiar, here's Ted DiBiase.
Wealth is what it's all about, Okerlund. It's the bottom line. And my wealth runs deeper than just dollars because I'm rich in ring prowess, flush with technical skill, and extremely well off when it comes to wrestling ability.
Well, you may indeed be a great wrestler, Ted DiBiase, but I can't help but think tonight you're up to something.
It's not what I'm up to, Okerlund. It's what it all comes down to. And what it all comes down to is this. Money isn't everything. It's the only thing. And everyone has a price for the $1 Million Man.
Nobody had a better evil laugh in wrestling than the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Just amazing. So a few months before WrestleMania, Ted DiBiase offers Hulk Hogan a large sum of money to sell the championship belt to Ted DiBiase. Hogan refuses, and that's also part of Saturday Night Main Event, where he's going to make his decision, and hell no, right? And the crowd goes crazy. So at the Royal Rumble in January, and WrestleMania is in April, Hogan and Andre have a contract signing for the championship rematch. The rematch takes place at Saturday Night Main Event in February. Andre the Giant beats Hulk Hogan in part because the $1 Million Man paid a referee lookalike to rig the finish. In real life, they had twin referees, Dave and Earl Hebner. So $1 Million Man pays to rig the finish, and shortly after Andre the Giant gets the championship, he sells the championship to Ted DiBiase. The president of the WWF says, okay, we can't do this. You're being stripped of the title, and we're going to hold a tournament, a 14-man tournament, and pair Andre and Hogan in the first round. So, like, the fact that Ted DiBiase is trying to pay like $1 million to win the championship leading up to this,
and then he
was amazing.
He bought Andre the Giant and got him to essentially plot a double disqualification and get Hogan and the Giant out of the way in Ted DiBiase's path to the championship.
It's just a brilliant storyline.
It really
what can
was.
I say?
No, it really was. A couple of ancillary things about this that I loved. Bob Uecker walking to the ring and getting mobbed and hugged by a guy with a heater in his mouth.
That was awesome.
People are just smoking inside the convention center.
Somebody went over the rail with a heater in their mouth and ran up and hugged Bob Uecker before security could pull him off. And by the way, security didn't even look that upset. People were much more lax about these things back then. It looked like they just kind of pulled him off and were like, all right, buddy, back to your seat. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't kick him out or anything, or at least it didn't seem like they were too worked up about it. I love Matilda the Bulldog.
Oh, Matilda's the best.
I'm a dog lover. Do you guys want to hear a really sad, disturbing note from listener Mike about Matilda the Bulldog, or should I leave that be?
No, let's
hear it.
Let's
Listener
put it
Mike
all out
has
there.
an encyclopedic knowledge of WrestleMania and sends us some liner notes every week for this segment. I couldn't believe this when I read it. Matilda the Bulldog would meet her untimely demise not long after this show when, for some reason, Dynamite Kid shot her in the head.
What?
Matilda was replaced by a new bulldog, Winston. I warned you guys. You wanted it. I warned you.
Mackie wanted it.
What? That's what Mike says in the liner notes for WrestleMania,
Dude,
man.
that is disturbing. That's
so
terrible.
disturbing. So disturbing.
By the way, Dynamite Kid, also one of the more disturbing stories in wrestling history, was one of the best performers and workers, and I think he suffered like some bad back injury and then wound up in a wheelchair and depressed, and was kind of a sad
I love
story
that
there,
the
too.
Bulldog would go after who was it? That wasn't Pat Patterson. I forget the manager.
Bobby Heenan,
Bobby
man.
Heenan. Yeah, he was going after
Bobby
the brain. It was the
Showed
best
up in a
part.
straitjacket so he could avoid getting bitten.
And you know
Matilda had no real interest in actually attacking Bobby Heenan, though.
I don't know, because if dogs can sense fear in other people, I believe that.
Yes.
Just like bees.
Agreed.
And you could tell if he played it off that dog wanted to chomp Bobby Heenan so bad.
I love Matilda. Watching her walk to the ring was amazing. Yeah. And I don't know that I had a bigger celebrity crush on any woman than I did Miss Elizabeth, and watch, because she played a much bigger role in this WrestleMania than she did previous. It stirred up so many feelings of 10-year-old Ramie watching Miss Elizabeth in WrestleMania 4. She was just gorgeous and like sweet and nice and supportive of the Macho Man. Like everything about her was like what 10-year-old Ramie wanted in his future life.
It is sad that in that main event, of the 5 people involved, so $1 Million Man, Macho Man, Miss Elizabeth, Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, 3 of the 5 are gone. Yeah. Macho Man, Elizabeth, and Andre the Giant. Ted DiBiase, I think, has been a producer and an agent for WWE for a long time behind the scenes. Yeah.
Okay.
One other factoid from this was the WrestleMania debut for Bad News Brown, who will make appearances in the next couple weeks as well. Bad News Brown was one of the great 1980s bad guy wrestlers. He was kind of Stone Cold Steve Austin before Steve Austin, that he just hated all wrestlers and was just down to business. And little known fact, he actually won a bronze medal at the 1976 Olympic Games in Montreal in judo. So when you see in the match that he wrestles, he delivers a swift kick to the back of somebody's head. I can't remember. And so, wait, wow, Bad News Brown, flexible, being able to get that right leg up to the back of somebody's head. It's because he's a judo master.
Wow.
So Bad News Brown.
All right, let's give this one its rating, guys. So we have 5 categories: storytelling, execution, match psychology, timing, and innovation. And this score is high across the board for me. I don't know about you guys. Storytelling, it's from a 0 to a 1 in each category. So the best score it can get cumulatively is a 5. Storytelling is a 1.
It's a 1.
The whole tournament for the championship, the whole getting together of the mega powers and taking down DiBiase and the Giant, just everything about it, brilliant. It's a perfect 1. Execution, I'm going to give a 0.7. Where are you guys at on execution?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. The tournament was cool, but it took a long time to get there. And also, I didn't like the double DQ with Andre and Hogan.
Yeah,
I didn't really.
I would actually give execution a 0.5 because I think they bit off more than they could chew with this big of a tournament. Okay. Like every match was like 5 minutes, except they had a 15-minute time limit
I'll meet
situation.
You in the middle and say a 0.6.
Okay.
Match psychology, I give a 0.8.
I'm giving it a 1. Everything was amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
Declan, if you say a 1, it's a 1.
I'll go 1. Yeah, that's fine.
So we have a 1, a 0.6, and another 1. Timing, I gave it a 0.7 for timing.
In terms of like, was it dragging? Yeah, I would say like a 0.7 sounds right to me.
Yeah, that's fine.
And innovation, a 0.5.
Innovation to me is a 1 because they pulled a tournament off.
That's true. And they started using steel chairs.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll go with you.
It's a 1.
Okay.
Give it a 1. So altogether, let's see, 1.6.
That is 4.4.
4.4
out of 5
for WrestleMania.
That's pretty dang good.
Amazing.
Pretty good, boys.
Best one yet.
WrestleMania 5.
Yeah, one of the best nights of my life.